You're lying in bed at 11:30 at night, exhausted, and your brain decides this is the perfect moment to replay that conversation you had 3 days ago. You know the one, where you said something completely normal, but now, in the dark, it sounds weird. Did they think you were rude? Were you too quiet? Should you have laughed at that joke? And suddenly, you're not just replaying it, you're rewriting it, creating 5 alternate versions of what you should have said, analyzing their facial expressions frame by frame like you're working for the FBI. Welcome to overthinking. And if this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Here's the thing most people don't understand about overthinkers. It's not that you're indecisive or anxious or neurotic, though those labels get thrown around a lot. It's that your brain has an incredibly sophisticated threat detection system that's working overtime. Think of it like this. Most people have a smoke detector in their house. Yours is a full security grid with motion sensors, thermal imaging, and a team on standby. It's not broken, it's just extraordinarily sensitive. And that sensitivity? It comes from somewhere deep in your psychological wiring. Let me take you back for a second. When you were young, maybe you learned that thinking ahead kept you safe. Perhaps you had to read the room constantly, predict moods, stay 2 steps ahead of conflict. Or maybe you just naturally noticed patterns other kids didn't. You saw that when mom sighed in a certain way, it meant something. When your friend got quiet, it wasn't random. Your brain became a pattern recognition machine. And here's the fascinating part. That's actually a survival skill. Psychologists call it hypervigilance. And while it sounds clinical, what it really means is that you learn to survive by thinking, and your brain never forgot that lesson. But here's where it gets complicated. That same skill that helped you navigate childhood, that made you intuitive and perceptive and emotionally intelligent, now turns inward. You're not just analyzing the world anymore, you're analyzing yourself. And that's when overthinking stops being useful and starts being exhausting. Because unlike external problems, which have solutions, your own thoughts are infinite. There's always another layer, another angle, another what if. Research in cognitive psychology shows that overthinkers tend to have higher levels of activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for planning, decision-making, and regulating emotions. Sounds good, right? Except when that region won't shut off. It's like having a computer with 20 browser tabs open, all running different scenarios simultaneously. What if I fail? What if I succeed and then can't handle it? What if people think I'm pretending? What if I'm not good enough? What if I am good enough, but I'm wasting my potential? The questions multiply faster than you can answer them. And here's something most people miss. Overthinking isn't really about the future. It's about control. When you think through every possible outcome, every potential mistake, every way something could go wrong, you're trying to eliminate uncertainty. You're trying to make the unpredictable predictable, because uncertainty feels dangerous. It feels like walking through a dark room where anything could happen. But if you can just think hard enough, plan well enough, anticipate everything, maybe you can turn the lights on. Except you can't, and that's the trap. I want you to imagine something for a second. Picture your mind as a courtroom. Every thought you have is a witness and you're the judge. But here's the problem. You never actually make a ruling. You just keep calling more witnesses, more evidence, more testimonies. The case never closes. One study from the University of Michigan found that overthinking, what researchers call rumination, actually impairs problem-solving ability. The more you think, the less clearly you see. It's like staring at a word until it stops looking like a word at all. You lose perspective. Think about the last time you had to make a simple decision. Maybe choosing what to order at a restaurant. For most people, it takes 30 seconds. For an overthinker, it becomes a philosophical crisis. What if you choose wrong and regret it? What if everyone else's food looks better? What if you're not even really hungry for what you think you want? And then there's the meta layer, where you start overthinking the overthinking itself. Why can't I just pick something like a normal person? What's wrong with me? And now you're not even thinking about food anymore. You're spiraling into self-judgment, and the waiter is standing there waiting, and you feel like you're failing at something as basic as lunch. But let's be honest. Overthinkers are often incredibly creative. You know why? Because creativity requires the ability to see multiple possibilities, to hold different ideas in your mind at once, to imagine what doesn't exist yet. Your brain does that naturally. The problem is you don't direct it.
It directs you. Instead of using that mental flexibility to build something, you use it to dismantle yourself. You take a compliment and find 12 reasons why it wasn't real. You plan a project and imagine 50 ways it could fail before you even start. It's creativity turned against you. There's also a deeply emotional component to overthinking that doesn't get talked about enough. Beneath all those racing thoughts is usually a feeling you're trying not to feel. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's shame, maybe it's grief or anger or loneliness. Thinking feels safer than feeling. If you can analyze why you feel sad, you don't have to just sit with sadness. If you can figure out why you're scared, maybe you can logic your way out of fear. Except emotions don't work that way. They don't respond to arguments. They need to be felt, not solved. I'll give you an example. Let's say someone you care about hasn't texted you back in 6 hours. A non-overthinker might think they're probably busy and move on with their day. But your brain is already writing the entire story. They're mad at you. No, they're not mad. They're just losing interest. Actually, maybe they were never really interested. Maybe you read the whole friendship wrong. Maybe you're annoying and they're just too polite to say it. And now you're scrolling back through old conversations looking for evidence, analyzing every word choice, every emoji, building a case against yourself that didn't exist 6 hours ago. The feeling underneath all of that, it's just fear of rejection, fear of being alone. But instead of sitting with that fear, which is vulnerable and uncomfortable, your brain tries to solve it by thinking and thinking and thinking. Here's where it gets really interesting. Overthinkers often have what psychologists call an external locus of control. That's a fancy way of saying you believe your worth, your safety, your happiness depends on things outside yourself, other people's opinions, outcomes, circumstances. So you monitor everything obsessively because you're trying to control things that were never yours to control in the first place. It's exhausting because it's impossible. You can't think your way into making someone like you. You can't overthink your way into guaranteed success. But your brain keeps trying because the alternative, letting go, feels too risky. There's also something called the spotlight effect that overthinkers experience intensely. It's this cognitive bias where you believe people are paying way more attention to you than they actually are. You think everyone noticed that awkward thing you said, that they're analyzing your outfit, your body language, your every move. But the truth is, most people are too busy overthinking their own lives to scrutinize yours. That embarrassing moment you're replaying on loop, the other person probably forgot about it 5 minutes later. But you've created a whole narrative around it, with imagined judgments and social consequences that exist nowhere but in your own mind.
And yet, here's the beautiful paradox. The thing that makes overthinking so painful is also what makes you capable of extraordinary insight. You notice things, you feel deeply, you care about getting things right. Those aren't weaknesses, they're just misdirected right now. Imagine if instead of using all that mental energy to second-guess yourself, you used it to create something, to understand someone, to solve an actual problem in the world. The capacity is there. It's just tangled up in self-protection. There's a concept in neuroscience called neuroplasticity, which basically means your brain can change. The pathways you've worn down through years of overthinking, those aren't permanent. Every time you catch yourself spiraling and choose to redirect your attention, you're literally rewiring your brain. It's slow, it's subtle, you won't notice it happening, but over time, the grooves get shallower, the thoughts lose their grip. You start to recognize them as just thoughts, not facts, not predictions, not truth with a capital T. So what does all this mean for you? It means your brain isn't broken. It's just trying to keep you safe using outdated information. The threats it's protecting you from, the rejection, the failure, the judgment, those might have been real once. Maybe they still are sometimes. But not every moment requires that level of vigilance. Not every silence needs to be analyzed. Not every decision needs to be perfect. And here's the hardest truth. Thinking more won't make you safer. It'll just make you more tired. The shift happens when you start to notice the overthinking as it's happening. Not to stop it because you can't just turn it off, but to recognize it. To say, oh, there's my brain doing that thing again, where it tries to solve feelings with thoughts, where it invents problems to prepare for. And instead of getting swept up in the current, you just observe it. You let the thoughts come and you let them go, without building a home in them. That's not easy. It takes practice, but it's possible. Because here's what I want you to understand. You are not your overthinking. You are the person underneath it, the one who's been trying so hard to be good enough, safe enough, prepared enough. And maybe, just maybe, you already are. Maybe the person you've been searching for in all those thoughts, the one who has it all figured out, who never makes mistakes, who's always certain, maybe that person doesn't exist. And maybe that's okay. Maybe being human, messy, uncertain, maybe that's not something to fix. Maybe it's something to accept. Your overthinking isn't a character flaw. It's a coping mechanism that's overstayed its welcome. It served you once. It kept you alert, prepared, safe. But you don't need it the way you used to. You're not that kid anymore, reading the room for danger signs. You're an adult now, capable of handling uncertainty, of surviving discomfort, of being wrong and being okay. Your brain just hasn't gotten the memo yet. If this resonated with you, if you recognized yourself in any of this, leave a comment. Tell me what your overthinking looks like, because I guarantee someone else needs to hear that they're not the only one. And if you want more conversations like this, where we dive deep into the psychology behind the things we all do but rarely talk about, subscribe. Let's keep exploring what it means to be human, together.